What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome back. I am Dan Malin, joined by James Grande. As always, this is the Fantasy Alarm 2 Minute Drill podcast, recapping the biggest news and storylines from Week 10 of the 2022 NFL season. Grande, how was Week 10 for you?
Um, so week 10 was not great, and I made a slight error with a pivot I went away from that cost me a lot of money. That cost me a lot of fantasy points. In DFS, I pivoted to Juju Smith-Schuster, um,
Should.
and I also had uh, Zay Jones, who was not bad, and I stacked Jaguars Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes at the under center, but I pivoted Dan from Christian Kirk and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So I made a colossal error in judgment, and I would have had a very good week. So it was bad. I did almost win a GPP for basketball on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So that was
Well done.
nice. Thank you, thank you. I did also my NHL DFS career has come to an end. I cashed for
It was short lived.
my first four appearances in the NHL DFS world. I cashed. Night number 5 did not, so I called it there. It was too much for me to overcome the loss. Um, but yeah, NFL DFS not very forgiving this week, and I'm already ready to move on. We're on to Cincinnati, Dan. That's as our old pal Bill Belichick once said.
I actually had a pretty good week, even though it felt like in my head I was just having a down week. Um, I did 3 lineups for tournaments. I didn't play cash once again because cash games just proved to be a massive trap in NFL this season. I basically followed Howard's advice in his playbook. If you read his playbook this week, he pretty much touched on he was only playing 3 quarterbacks, and it was Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields, and Tua. Those were the 3 that I built around. 2 of my 3 cashed fairly comfortably. I had one lineup put up over 190 points, so it wasn't a massively dominant or like just a huge week, but it was still profitable. So we won't ever really complain about that. Season long also went really well too, which is strange because I really got hit hard by bye weeks. So week 10, it wasn't a ceiling week. It was a good week overall, but we have plenty to talk about. I think we can just start with the game of the year so far. We were all kind of worried heading into this game. Bills Vikings. Josh Allen might sit out, might miss the game. Reports at about 11:30, between 11:30 and 12 o'clock on Sunday, were saying that Josh Allen was on the field, or he was active, but he wasn't on the field at first. Then he was on the field, but then there were still people trying to make big news out of the fact that Case Keenum had like a play call sleeve on his arm, but who really cares about that? Josh Allen still played. He was awesome. If he's active, you just have to play him in season long fantasy. I still think he had like a 20+ point week.
Yep.
Had 3 turnovers. That'll happen. I believe he does lead the league this year in interceptions.
Yep.
I am embarrassed to say though that I slept through basically the last 10 minutes of quarter number 2, slept through all of quarter number 3, and most of the fourth quarter as well. So I missed a lot of the excitement and the drama. I did see the controversial Gabe Davis catch, but then the Vikings went on and still stole the win in overtime on a crucial interception at the end of the game. But I'm going to pose this to you because I saw this stat on Twitter. I can't take credit for this, but I'm sure it's been discussed on other fantasy football podcasts as well. But since 2021, the start of the 2021 season, the Bills are 16-1 in games decided by 8 or more points, and just 2-8 in games decided by 7 points or less. Do we have concerns that maybe Josh Allen is not a clutch quarterback?
No. I think he ran into some unfortunate events in the playoffs, aka Patrick Mahomes. I think yesterday was a little unlucky. The defense played tremendous, getting the back-to-back goal line stops. And then it was just like an awkward exchange on the one where like you don't really have any other option than what they did. Like, could they have gone shotgun? Sure. what if that fails? Like then you're like people are, oh, why didn't they just sneak it out of the end zone, right? Like there's no win there for Buffalo because of what happened. I'm not going to say that he's not clutch. Um, you know, I think that they've had some unfortunate luck in certain stances. I think it's too early to still say that he's not clutch, and I think Josh Allen's gonna get his in the playoffs and gonna get his in big games. He can do anything he wants on the football field, but sometimes that does lead to like him trusting his arm too much, and he makes throws that maybe he shouldn't have. And I think that's something that's still developing in Josh Allen's game, and I think always will develop for players of his caliber. Like when to not make the throws that he tries to make that only he can make, right? Like there are a few people in the NFL that can make some of the plays that he can make, and I think sometimes he trusts his talent a little too much, and
Which he
that could,
should.
which he should, right? But I think that sometimes leads to turnovers in bad spots, and um, but I'm not gonna go as far. I'm not gonna go saying that it's not clutch. I will, though, however, as the resident Giants fan of this podcast, like to go on record and say I am okay with anybody that wants to say that Justin Jefferson's catch was like the best they've ever seen, better than the Odell catch. Circumstantially,
It was pretty damn awesome.
it was
It was
literally
amazing.
like, and the thing about it was like, not only did he catch it, not only was he stronger than the defender with two arms around the ball, as he was twirling to the ground, he like cuffed it and it never touched. Like, how are you that insane of a human and like your brain and like everything working at that speed to just know what you're doing and like rotate your arm and put the ball where it is so it doesn't hit the ground? Like, just like that dude is absolutely just different than everyone else. Like, he is so different than anyone else moving on a football field. So that I will say, if anyone, and I'm a Giants fan, and I understand Odell Beckham literally broke the world when he made that catch down the sideline against the Dallas Cowboys, who they're going to beat in 2 weeks, for a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, circumstantially, probably, maybe the greatest catch we've ever seen. I don't know. I don't know. Someone else can chime in there, Dan. You can chime in if you have anything better. But that was incredible. But no, I don't think Josh Allen is not clutch.
Here's my concern with Allen though, because I the physical gifts are there. I wonder if he can. I guess what I'm trying to say is read the room a little bit. Came into this game and he was questionable all week. Just the angle at which his elbow bent last week looked
Yeah.
awkward. He was
Yep.
very fortunate to have avoided a serious injury, and he was still able to play. And a lot of the fantasy analysis was, well, he's one of the two best quarterbacks in this league, so play him no matter what, because he can still do plenty of damage on the ground with his legs.
Right.
But even when he's running, it's like he's out there seeking contact, and
Oh, he's a psycho.
he's built like an absolute brick house. Like he's 6'5". He's just a human being for the quarterback position. And so when you're out there and you're running, just slide. Don't try to get contact with the linebacker. Don't try to throw the shoulder. Like, you are a franchise quarterback. You are destined to make hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even bring a Super Bowl or multiple to Buffalo. Like, protect yourself and just slide. Don't go out there and try to bang heads with, an opposing linebacker, some oversized, like, strong safety or whatever. Just be a superstar, stay healthy, and just slide. Don't run into anybody. That's the last thing I'll say, because he's an outstanding talent and he's great for fantasy, and I would like to see him. But next, we'll actually move on to a more serious injury. But we did get some news before we started recording this podcast. It is Monday night at around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Cooper Kupp looked to have a very disastrous ankle injury.
It looked horrible.
Looked really bad. He was immediately on the ground, grabbing the ankle on the sideline. Everyone kind of held their collective breath. Cooper Kupp owners thought the season was over. X-rays and all those tests they did, they're all negative. So it does look like it's a high ankle sprain. That still does have a bit of a time frame. I'm guessing he would need at least 3 to 4 weeks,
Yep.
possibly as much as 6. So for the time being, he will be absent. Now, we can get to replacements on the waiver wire shortly because we do have some other wide receivers that we're going to talk about. But with Cooper Kupp out, do you have any interest, or do we see a significant upgrade in the fantasy values of players like Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, or Tyler Higbee? Just because I don't know if I can get too excited about any of these players except maybe Higbee because he's developed the chemistry and has had plenty of targets from Matthew Stafford when he's been on the field. But overall, this offense looks like it's done a complete 180 from where it was a year ago. Even on the defensive side of the ball, with all the talent that they have, and they're still pretty bad. I have a hard time justifying really upgrading anybody in this offense unless you feel differently.
No, I think this offense is a disaster. I mean, clearly, maybe thinking that Matt Stafford's elbow was fine prior to the year was a bad decision, and maybe not addressing that is, rearing its ugly head right now because clearly there's an issue, and it's been an issue from the get. Um, I guess Higby is fine. Like you're right. I think especially given the scarcity, I would say at the position, right, Dan? Like it's a crap position. Like tight end is a very bad position if you don't have one of the top guys, and one of the top guys, has been hurt for the last couple weeks, and Mark Andrews just making matters worse. So, um, yeah, I think Higby could be an upgrade, especially if we see Stafford under center, which he should be. I mean, I guess considering he was close to playing after being placed in concussion protocol in the middle of the week, is a good sign he'll be back for the next game. But Higby's fine. I do like to see Van Jefferson get into the end zone. I think that was a good thing to see for the Rams, considering he missed a lot of this year when they didn't put him on IR to start the year, and they were like, "Oh, he's going to be back," and then he wasn't, and then
Took him forever.
and then 8 weeks in, they're like, "Oh yeah, Ben Jefferson's back." It's like, oh, maybe we should have considered that in the first place. Allen Robinson, no interest. Don't care if all these red zone targets he gets, they don't translate to anything. They don't translate into anything. I was in on the Allen Robinson bandwagon before the year, and you know what? Looking back, shame on us because again, Stafford's elbow was barking from the jump, from the word go. Stafford's elbow was an issue. We knew it was an issue, and we seemingly didn't care. We thought the additions of Allen Robinson would make up for it. So I think small upgrades to Higbee. I think a small upgrade to Van Jefferson. The running back position is literally terrible. All the excitement out of Kyron Williams. One rush. He had one rush yesterday. So he did contribute in the passing game, but like not enough to be like, oh, rush to get Kyron Williams off your waiver wire. This team's a dumpster fire. There's no chance they're catching the Niners. No chance they catch Seattle. They are probably going to finish last in this division. And,
So let's say that the team that they do finish last. Do we potentially see, if this team is just out of the running, do we even see them bring back Kupp and risk further injuring him? Or do we just maybe see them shutting it down? Because as we know, the Rams don't really have anything to play for if they are out of it. It's not like they can improve their draft stock because I'm pretty sure they traded away their 2023 first-round pick anyway. So, what incentive did they have to really bring a player back? Because they can't really play for draft position, but at the same time, they have almost no shot at defending their Super Bowl. So I don't know. There's just nothing for this team to play for.
I think you're right, and high ankle sprains are typically like the 3 to 6 week injury. So if it's bad, I mean, like think about it realistically. Like yes, they could beat the Saints if Stafford's under center. Sure, they're not beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead. They have to play the Seahawks. They have to They have to go to Lambeau in December. They have to go to face the Chargers in January. Like there's like 4 losses like you can pencil in already based on just what the Rams have been. Like they're just not a good team this year, and maybe we see wholesale changes next year. But no, I don't know if we see Coop again. Dan, I think it's a good question. Cooper, sorry, Cup. I don't know him on a first name basis, so I'll just call him Cooper Cup. But yeah, it's a good question. I'm not. We don't know how severe it is, but typically the 3 to 6 week time frame just kind of puts him out of play, and maybe we don't see him again.
Well, all right, man. All right, now another wide receiver that was injured was Juju Smith-Schuster. Was a DFS darling heading into week 10. The hit he took was ugly. We were talking
Yeah.
about it and how he assumed the fencing position that you see associated with a lot of head injuries. So now the Chiefs are without Juju for this foreseeable future, at least for week 11. Are they on bye this week, or did they already have their bye?
They already had their bye.
Okay. But either way, they're going to be without Juju. They will be without Mecole Hardman. We saw Kadarius Toney find the end zone. Was that his first career touchdown? Because he
Did
didn't
he
have one with
score
the
with the
Giants, did he?
Giants?
I
I
don't think he
don't
did.
think. I mean, he had the 189-yard game against the Cowboys. I don't know.
Either
Uh,
way,
he did not have no touchdowns. That was his
okay.
first touchdown.
So congratulations to him, but obviously he is going to be a big waiver wire acquisition if he's still available. Um, do we think that he sees a much larger role taking shape going forward? I mean, it's almost like he has to be thrusted into a bigger role if it's because even Marquez Valdez-Scantling left Sunday's game, but he did come back and had
Yep.
a decent game. I think he put up like 15 and a half fantasy points. So really, the passing game will still go through Travis Kelce, but Kadarius Toney, do we think that there's a significant ceiling for him to possibly be a top 24 wide receiver rest of season, maybe even top 20?
Oh, it's a good question. It's an interesting way to put it too.
I'm basically asking if he's a wide receiver too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question because we saw what Juju was becoming, and I think it's what Juju was being drafted this year as, like what we had hoped he was going to be, and he was really, really good the last month. Like Juju was awesome. Like 1,300-yard season in Pittsburgh, Juju was back.
Right.
Now look, Toney played 28 snaps, man. He went from 6 snaps to 28 in the matter of no time, and now they're down another receiver. They gave him 2 carries, and he had that explosive run of over 30 yards. There was the clip of him adjusting his gloves mid-air. Did you see that? The ball was literally mid-air, and he was playing with his gloves while going up to make a catch. Like he's a freak. We know he is like they very well could have just got Tyreek Hill 2.0 in their
Yeah.
offense. Like they went out. I, Look, there is a chance, Dan. We don't know how long Juju's gonna be out, but like it didn't look good. His mom put up an Instagram saying he's fine. We know how bad it's been when you're in concussion protocol. Like
Yeah.
there has been very few instances where the player has returned in the next week. This game. They flexed Chiefs Chargers. This was the first flex of the year. They flexed it to Monday night, or to Sunday night football next week. So Juju has the like extra day, but I don't think he's going to return. Do I think Kadarius Toney could be a top 24 receiver? Yes. Do I think he's going to be? I don't know. I was in the wait and see camp this week. John and I got a lot of questions on the Better Sports Network on Sunday, like Kadarius Toney or who, Kadarius Toney or who, and it was like I kind of wanted to wait and see because
John had him in the contrarian plays video.
yeah, and I think it was a look. Patrick Mahomes is playing at a level we've honestly never seen before because he's playing without Tyreek Hill and he's playing as well as he ever has. And I think it's worth. He was definitely worth the dart, and we saw what happens when he gets an increased role. I think he can be. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say he will be. I think that if you have him, right, or if you pick him up, this is where I'll make my stance. I think that he's a weekly flex option with upside for what you just said. He's a weekly flex option with top 24 upside every week. And I think that is the case when Juju's healthy because Hardman's not there. And now we're seeing Toney doing with jet sweeps, and we're seeing him involved in the passing game and even in the red zone. Like, dude, sky's the limit for the package that Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are gonna get this guy. So I'll say weekly flex play if you're picking him up, which is he's a top priority if he is on your waiver wire, with the upside for a top 24 or better receiver.
Do you have any interest in Sky Moore?
No, because when you look at the snaps, right? Juju left that game. There was no Mecole Hardman. Sky Moore played 16 snaps. You know who played all the snaps? Justin Watson played all the snaps. 46 snaps. He ran 30 routes. And honestly, again, all track team, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And you know what? He wasn't all track team because he had a very good game. He scored. But he's been running routes all year long. He's their deep threat. He's gonna continue to run routes. Sky Moore, maybe if Kadarius Toney didn't exist, Sky Moore would have. But I said this on Sunday's show, and I think Sky Moore is the perfect example of somebody who the masses had hoped and like drafted based on where a team drafted him, but like he's just not being used, and people just still really hope Sky Moore is going to be this guy, and he's just not. Like this year, he is not, right? Like he's not. Even in games, there's no Hardman. Juju leaves. Toney's only been there for a week and a half. He plays 16 snaps. Like Sky Moore this year, for all maybe in Dynasty, I'm sure he's a very valuable commodity because he does have a lot of upside, and he was taken in the second round, and he is in a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. 2022 redraft, he is a no-go from me, dog. Randy Jackson voice.
All right. So we go from one second-round draft pick to another from the 2022 NFL Draft. Christian Watson finally had the breakout game that we were all kind of waiting for. It only took it until halfway through the season. He caught 4 of 8 targets for 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. And it seems like at various points throughout the year, we're always talking about, who could the wide receiver one in Green Bay be? Could it be Allen Lazard? Could it be Romeo Doubs? Could it be Randall Cobb? I remember when they played in London, Cobb was the guy that they were going to, and then he got hurt. Could it be Sammy Watkins, who's really just a week one wonder? Watson was the 34th overall pick in this year's draft. And somebody likened Christian Watson's 3-touchdown game. Forget who it was on Twitter. I apologize. I'm not taking credit for this, but whoever it was on Twitter said Christian Watson's 3-touchdown game feels a lot like Chase Claypool's 4-touchdown game from a year ago. Could we see Watson emerge as the wide receiver one, or is it just going to be a fluid situation where it could be anybody any given week, and maybe next week it's Allen Lazard?
I mean, I think there's a chance that Watson is. Look, Lazard is. I think Lazard has always been more of the possession guy for this team. They just didn't have the big play ability with Watson just in and out of the lineup. I mean, even in this game, Dan, he dropped 2 passes in the first half.
Yeah.
And he didn't look great. And then
he even left with an injury at one point.
Yeah, I mean, water is wet, right? He leaves every game. He's leaving every game with an injury at this point. And look, I think that he could be the number one option because he is just faster than everyone. That was it the second touchdown? Dude, the route he ran on that second touchdown was so sick. Like he clearly has a very good understanding of the offense and is building a rapport with Aaron Rodgers. And I think but I do think Allen Lazard is typically going to be the wide receiver one in this offense. But there's no doubt that Christian Watson has more upside. We just saw yesterday. He just has the big playability that few people have because of his speed, because of his physical attributes. I mean, he's a freak. Like his size and speed doesn't make sense. He's just one of those dudes. So I think Allen Lazard is still the number one option in Green Bay's offense. Like from a football standpoint, Christian Watson, though, has more upside fantasy, I think, rest of the year.
Who would you rather prioritize on the waiver wire if both are available in your league? Kadarius Toney or Christian Watson?
That's a great question.
We're probably only talking shallow leagues here, so
yeah, definitely shallow leagues. I would say Kadarius Toney. I think that we haven't seen enough from the Packers offense as a whole. Like they're 4-6. They lost 5 in a row before that game.
Still a bad team.
They were down 14 points into the fourth quarter. 2 big plays to Christian Watson turns their season around potentially, right? I still think that we're talking about one of the best offenses of all time. Like when we look back at like this Patrick Mahomes era, maybe like the best offense of all time, right? And there's just injuries galore over there. And I know there's injuries in Green Bay. Like Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy. Romeo Doubs is out. Like there's plenty of moving parts in Green Bay, but I think we both agree on like Patrick Mahomes over Aaron Rodgers at this point. And we both agree Andy Reid over Matt LaFleur and his play calling at this point. Even Aaron Rodgers was yelling at Matt LaFleur yesterday. So I will go with Kadarius Toney, but it's close.
All right, let's talk Jeff Saturday in the Indianapolis Colts real quick. I think we all jumped the gun a little bit, but at the same time, it's nice that he gets the win. I still think the whole process of how he was hired rather, over experienced coordinators, everything like that, still very puzzling. Jim Irsay took a victory lap on Twitter today, but at the same time, they beat the Raiders, and the Raiders defense is almost dead last in every defensive metric I can think of. They're probably bottom 8, which puts them in the bottom quarter of the league. But they're just so terrible. And even last week, I think they released Jonathan Abram, a former first-round pick. Like, the team is just in shambles. I know Josh McDaniels got a vote of confidence from Mark Davis earlier today. Take it with a grain of salt. That team is bad. I don't know. Like, it's nice for Saturday to go 1-0 and win his first game. It's a no-brainer. Like, anyone with a brain could have, like, just known, like, if you're going into that for your first career game, start Matt Ryan. Don't start Sam Ehlinger.
Right.
Whatever Frank Reich and that team were doing, declaring Ehlinger like the starting quarterback the rest of the season, just forget about it. That was stupid. But now the Colts are 4-6-1.
4-5-1. 4-5-1.
4-5-1. So they have an outside shot of still making the playoffs. They need to be going with Matt Ryan going forward. Now, from a fantasy perspective, are we feeling better about the Colts, which is like Matt Ryan, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, maybe even Paris Campbell? Are we feeling a lot better about them going forward as to where we were a week ago? Or was this just the Raiders effect? Because next week, like, they don't play the Raiders every week, unfortunately.
They get Philly. They have Philly next week.
But they do get Philly in a short week.
They do get Philly in a short week. To be fair, like, yeah, the Raiders stink, but like the Colts did too. So they were so bad that they fired their like coaching staff, right? So to be fair, like Jeff Saturday obviously didn't face the Eagles in his first start, but like, maybe not, they were a bad team too. Look, Matt Ryan got sacked only one time, Dan, and coming into the year being someone who profiles offensive lines, they profile very well, and they paid their guys, and they brought in an offensive line guy. Very hard to discount like that in this game plan, right? Like, not only all week have we seen Jeff Saturday and the Peyton Manning clip where Jeff Saturday's like, run the damn ball, Peyton, run the damn ball. And Peyton's like yelling back at him. And Jeff's just like, F you, Peyton, run the damn ball. Like, Jeff Saturday ran for 207 yards in his debut, only got sacked one time. Matt Ryan ran a very serviceable offense. Jonathan Taylor looked like Jonathan Taylor again. Yeah, the answer is yes. And you know what's funny? Before they went to Ehlinger, Paris Campbell looked really good. And he looked really good again with Matt Ryan. Obviously, Michael Pittman, 53 yards, leaves some to be desired, but 7 receptions on 9 targets. You love the 7 receptions. You love the 9 targets. The answer is yes. Flat out, yes. If the offensive line is going to hold up for Matt Ryan, if the offensive line is going to hold up for Jonathan Taylor, we were drafting all these guys very highly. We held them in very high regards. People are picking the Colts to beat the Titans in the division. So do I think they're going to win the division? No. But if Jeff Saturday is going to make a direct impact on offensive line, which was the clear issue why Matt Ryan fumbled 457 times in 7 games, then yes. They have Philly. They have the Steelers, very winnable game. They have the Cowboys, probably tough. They have the Vikings, definitely tough. They have the Chargers, the Giants, the Texans, like some winnable games in there. And I think as long as Matt Ryan's under center and not under constant duress, then I do think that these guys are fantasy viable again.
All right. Last topic I want to touch on, and it's regarding a player that I've been, I don't have any fantasy season-long shares of this particular player, but I am a bit of a Deontay Johnson apologist, strictly because he's just a PPR gem, or he has been for the longest time. He gets like 8 to 10 targets on a weekly basis. He catches passes. His hands are so good. He gets yards. Just has a hard time getting into the end zone. And this year he
Right.
hasn't scored at all. We're coming off a week where the Steelers traded Chase Claypool a week or two ago. So it's really our first look at what this offense could look like. And yeah, he had 5 targets. I don't get it. He only had 4 catches. Still milked him for a good amount of yardage, but still doesn't find the end zone. The target volume has gone down. I really don't know what to make of this offense, and I'm almost at the point where I'm comfortable telling people you can drop Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, unfortunately, seems like the alpha is no longer Deontay Johnson. And especially when the talk about like the Jalen Warren thing is now circling, where Jalen Warren is going to be involved, and Najee gets 20 carries, but Jalen Warren gets 9, and then Kenny Pickett's running a lot too. I mean, they ran 43 times, dude, which is it hasn't been the case. And George Pickens seems to be ahead of Johnson in the pecking order, especially when they're driving the ball downfield, or especially when they're in the red zone. It's not Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson does not get red zone looks at all. And Freiermuth led them in targets. So it's tough. The only format, like I have him in a half PPR format, he just holds no value. The only format, honestly, I'm holding on to Deontay Johnson in, and it's right now, it's just like a bench, and maybe him and Kenny Pickett develop some type of rapport the rest of the year, is in full PPR. It's the only value he holds at this point. No standard value, no little to none in half PPR. And it's sad because the volume has been tremendous throughout the beginning of his career, but look, there's no Big Ben. Big Ben's not walking through that door unless he's the offensive coordinator next year, right? So, unless something drastically changed where Pickens goes down, and it's tough to get behind the bandwagon. I'm with you there, and yeah.
All right, Grande. As we wrap up this podcast, I just want to pour one out for the London and Munich games. We don't get any more early football games. I am an early bird on NFL Sundays. I'm always up, usually around 5 or 6 a.m. on the East Coast. It's usually when I do most of my DFS research as I'm like getting the fantasy alarm site ready for the day and everything. I read Howard's playbook. It's always nice when I'm like site producing and answering questions, just helping out like our subs and the family, just set their lineups and everything. So yeah, the Sunday morning games they just make they just make it easier for me, and I don't feel sorry if people complain that it's too early. 9 a.m. on the East Coast is not too early to wake up for a
No.
football game that kicks off at 9:30. West Coasters have a better excuse if they're trying to get up at 6:30, but even then,
Right.
if you're a grown adult, you can get your ass up at 6:30. But I'm gonna miss the London games until next year. I'd love to see them expand it to maybe 6, just for my own sanity at least. But that's it. Just wanted to wrap it up and give a kiss goodbye to the London games.
Hey, you know what though? From what it sounds like, if you listen to everything Roger Goodell has been saying, sounds like we're gonna have a division over there sooner rather than later, Danny. So
Put a team over there.
yeah, I
Give
think
me,
we'll
give
get
me, put a team over there. Give me 8 Sunday morning games. Let's just have a Sunday morning football team. Put the Jaguars over there. I know
dude.
Vreeland probably likes them in Florida. Just move that team to London. We can just call like the Jaguars will just be our Sunday morning team 8 weeks a year. Just give the Jaguars their own spot every like 8 weeks a year,
Well,
9:30 a.m.
I
and
mean,
the Jaguars just become our Sunday morning team.
like you could have put up so many other teams, and you decided to go with the Jags. Like I get that they're like always
Who
going
else
over
are they
there
gonna
and stuff.
move? It's a small market.
I mean, like
It's a small
anybody.
market team.
I mean,
It can be
anyone.
easily moved.
Yeah, like who else are you gonna move?
Apologies to our Duval County listeners.
Duval. Anyone but him. Like anybody but the Jaguars. Just move like any other franchise there, so like the ratings don't tank. Because
What franchise are you going to move?
inevitably,
You're not moving either.
um,
You're not going to move Dallas. You're not going to move the New York teams. You're not moving the Patriots. You're not moving the LA teams. You're not moving the Bears. You're not moving the
let's see.
Packers.
Yeah, we're just gonna move a whole division over there by creating one. I mean, look, like where who can we move here? Let's run through. You can't move Buffalo. I mean, you could. No, Buffalo's safe. Miami's safe. The Patriots, people could do without, but they're safe. The Jets are safe.
Well, how do you move a whole division? Because I feel like if you're gonna establish teams in Europe, you need 8 teams. So you have 4 in the AFC and 4 in the NFC.
I think they want to. I think he wants. Goodell was talking about like creating 4 new teams, like 4 European teams. And they're like
How do they fit into the
36 NFL teams, dude. Look, we know NFL money, money, money. Doesn't matter what. Did you see like the pictures of Germany yesterday? Like, were insane. Like, you're telling me that they couldn't like get a franchise over there
No, they could.
Oh my God! So I agree. Like,
I don't get like how it would work for like the AFC and NFC.
I guess that's a fair.
Because you'd have like 5 divisions for the NFC.
That's a very fair point.
And then have 4 for the other one.
That's a fair point.
That's why you need 8, so you can have 4 teams in each conference.
All right, four German teams, 4.
No. You can spread it to
4 London teams.
Put 2 teams in England. You can put a team in Germany, 1 in Italy. Give the French a team.
Give the French a team.
It's gonna suck. Give Ireland a team. My God, a team in Dublin.
Team in Dublin. Great. That's like going to it'd be like another like going to Miami situation for teams. Like
2 teams in Spain, Barcelona, Madrid.
Well, they're doing the where's the there is one more out of country game. Where is it? Mexico City.
It's gonna be Mexico City. Yeah.
Mexico City game. So I mean, they already have a
usually
foundation
a prime
there.
time game though.
Yeah, that is a prime. There'll be a prime time game, but they have a foundation there. So like you could spread it out throughout the world. But Dan, nobody can see us, and I'm only drinking water, and I'm also not gonna pour it out because I don't want to clean it up after. But I'm theoretically pouring this water out for the morning games as well. But like nobody. Also, last thing I'll say, nobody wants to see the Jaguars 8 times a year at 9:30.
I would watch. I left it in the notes that I would wake up at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday to who did I watch?
You do that anyway. You do that anyway.
Yeah, it happens when you're an insomniac. But I would wake up like if there was a Tokyo game and it was on at 2:30 in the morning or 3 a.m. I would watch the Lions and Jaguars play.
Oh boy, I couldn't imagine fantasy football Twitter in those circumstances. Please don't do it.
Entering the showdown slate. But we've gone long. Apologies for the last few minutes of this podcast. I really just wanted to touch on how much I'm going to miss the London games.
We have spiraled.
Big for my NFL Sundays. But Grande, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you and the FA Nation in Week 11.